Welcome to another session of Rugby with Reynecke. The one thing you take out of rugby is friendships. That's probably the biggest thing for myself, and I think if you ask any rugby player. My two guests today, two distinguished gentlemen from New Zealand and Australia. I'm fortunate enough to be part of a team called the Jam Boys. Jam Boys is a team that played in Bangkok Tens, started by Eddie Evans, all the Canadian prop, Bob Skinstad and Ron Rutland. These gentlemen, I've met them there. We've walked a bit of a way there in Cape Town now for the Cape Town Tens, and I thought, what's better than getting outside opinion about South African rugby, talking about the differences in our rugby. I want to welcome Trent Jones from Australia. Welcome, Trenty.
It is. How you going?
Good, and you, mate?
Yeah, not bad. I'm feeling
good. And
feeling
Sam
fresh.
Barton.
Hey, what's up, Peppers? Thank you, my bro.
Let's kick it off. I'll just go. Trenty, how did you get involved with the Jam Boys? So tell us a bit about your rugby career.
Obviously, we played at school. You go from school, you go to club rugby, which is assistant premier rugby, which is...
What school were you in? Sorry, give us the full detail.
St. Joseph's Nudgee College. It's a breeding ground for Rocky Elsom, Wallabies captain. There was a number of players that played over the years, Elton Flatley. We have a long history of a big rugby breeding ground for the whole of Australia coming out of Queensland, because most of the rugby players in Australia, their origins normally start Brisbane or Sydney. And then from there we went to Brothers Rugby Club, which is it's the second oldest rugby club in Australia, behind University of Sydney. And then there's Brothers Rugby Club, so we have a long tradition of producing great rugby players like John Eales, Sam Cordenly, Sean Hardman. There's been a number of great rugby players come out of Brothers Rugby Club,
including Trent Jones.
Yeah, I wanted to say,
obviously.
You're a bit of a John Eales, just with better skills and more speed.
Exactly. He's better looking.
That's you don't even have to say that.
Let's not give him too much, eh?
Yeah.
And so, obviously, playing it's kind of the Premier Rugby grade is where you have your fringe players that get elevated up to the Super Rugby program. From that, I got drafted into Hong Kong Rugby Tens, played a few competitions there, played against some players that had played for other teams. They said you should come over and play in the Jam Boys Rugby, and then from there we're here in Cape Town, South Africa, playing Team EC, which is I've heard a phenomenal, well-respected team in
it's a great
Cape Town Tens.
Yeah, Cape Town Tens. It's bigger. We're talking here as current Bangkok champions.
Exactly.
Jam Boys are the champions.
Yeah.
Body, yourself. I want to just say something about this guy. I mean, we're going to speak about it a bit later, and when we talk about the development of rugby, phenomenal winger, man's got pace. My biggest question was always, why the hell are you not a professional rugby player? But, talk us through it. Where did it all start for you?
Well, rugby-wise?
Yeah, rugby-wise.
Yeah, 5 years old, wanted to play rugby with all my mates, and then it progresses, and then eventually, I know at some point along the club rugby scene, you decide you want to become an All Black, as most Kiwi lads do, and then you sort of progress. Well, I progressed through sort of club rugby, played a bit of school rugby, then moved from school rugby to club rugby. And then after the club rugby, you sort of make your way through the development teams and that sort of thing. As to why I never cracked it, I don't know. Let's have a chat to some of my ex-coaches and find out. Etis, you can handle that conversation for me though, bro.
Well, when we speak about it a lot, well, we did already in Bangkok. You played all your rugby in Auckland, the Blues.
For North Harbour. So
North Harbour. In the northern,
Blues,
yeah. And if you look year in, year out, some of your best wingers, some of your best All Blacks, it's always wingers and fullbacks that come out of that region. So, got a bit of a steep competition, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. Now the competition is tough, and there's 10 guys for every one spot. So if you're just unlucky to be on the wrong end of the stick, you're just unlucky and you're on the wrong end of the stick, basically.
Okay, and in terms of I looked at your chief officer of development in New Zealand, and he reckons for more cream you need more milk.
Yeah.
How is there a system where guys like yourself can stay in the system and have a chance of making it into a blue setup we spoke about it. You say there's too many players, too few teams. How does it work in New Zealand?
Well, so basically you'll get plucked from your club side, you'll get put into sort of an academy or a development squad, or you might even get chucked into the Mitre 10 Cup wider squad kind of thing. And
is that directly after school now?
Yeah. I mean, some guys are getting chucked straight into the Mitre 10 Cup set up straight out of school. They might even be doing it while they're at school, but they can't play while they're at school. And then you basically sort of work your way through there, but you've got a couple of years maybe to prove your worth, and if you don't have it, then the next guy coming through gets his shot, and you just sort of sit on the sideline, so to speak.
Do you have a national under 19 or under 20 competition as well?
Yeah.
Or do those guys go and play straight club rugby?
Yeah, no. So we've got we've got our under 20s competition, which obviously feeds into the international under 20s competition. So boys are, when you're that age, you're trying to get to the New Zealand side, but if you can get in there, then you've got a pretty sweet run through your rugby career, because once you've sort of got your foot in the door there, then and I'm sure it's the case with most countries, but if you don't get in sort of at school age, it's quite a hard graft to sort of put your hand up.
Well, you used the example of a guy like Brodie Retallick, which only played 13 for his school. How does it work for him through the system? Does he also, after school, he still had exposure at club level? How did he get through the ranks?
I mean, there's always opportunity. There's no sort of, clean-cut case for everyone. If you're a guy who can turn up and play out of your skin and there's a spot available, then you're going to get the shot. It's just that usually, in my union, they're signing guys before the season's even started. So when it comes to the club season, no matter how well you play, there might be 1 or 2 spots up for grabs. So boys are really having to compete for those spots. Some guys get lucky, a lot don't.
And yourself, and Jonesy in Australia?
To be honest, I come from Brisbane, which is a rugby league heartland.
Yeah.
The only reason I started playing rugby union was because I was in the national rugby league team, and I got a scholarship to rugby union school, which is the private schools, a lot more
better education.
Exactly, you get a better education, more connections for when you go into your professional life after school. So that's the only reason I started playing rugby union, because I got a scholarship to a rugby school, which is the bigger ones is where more of the money is. So that's the only reason I started playing rugby union. And then from there, once you get into the schooling system, so you've got people from Australian rules football asking you to go to their schools. You've got people from rugby league schools and schools of excellence for rugby league. So you've got to make your decision early. As a 13-year-old kid, you've got AFL schools, rugby league schools, rugby union schools, all coming to go play this sport, and at that age, you just love sport in general.
Yeah.
So,
how do you know?
How do you know?
Yeah,
you don't
exactly.
know. I think now when you're talking about league and union, I always think of Benji Marshall. Now, obviously, Sonny Bill did well in both of them.
Yeah.
But Benji Marshall, he walked out of a massive contract.
Yep.
Went to the Blues. One season, he said, listen, there's just no space in union. Like, I look good playing league, but there's absolutely no space for me in union.
Yeah.
What is it, except now for going to the right schools? What else can force a guy in New Zealand, or what will push him in the right direction, a young man, to lean towards union?
To be honest, in Australia, to go to the better schools, you play rugby union. So that's what you want to do. You want to go to the better schools because away from school, once you get past that, there's so many connections for you career-wise that you'd be better off choosing rugby union, because just like why rugby in America is becoming so big is because all the Ivy League schools are starting to run rugby union programs. They have those big sevens tournaments. You can get into the Olympics these days. So
the sevens, you said Stanford as well. You can get a scholarship to a place like Stanford.
Yeah.
They've had a little bit of a setback with a professional league. The money man behind that, apparently he's a bit of a dictator. He's pulled his money out again. So it's a bit of up and down for them in terms of establishing a proper league there. But I want to know in terms of the attraction to rugby and the game itself.
Yep.
The young boys in New Zealand, and obviously New Zealand's different, but Australia, do they look at a game and go, I want to think of where rugby is at the moment. Do they look at the rugby and go, I would rather want to play rugby union than league. It looks like a more attractive game.
Yep. A lot of the times, the similarities between rugby league and rugby union are so similar. It's the attractions where you can play internationally, you can travel the world.
Yeah.
That's what really would draw me and what I know a lot of other boys away from rugby league, because basically rugby league is the east coast of Australia.
And England,
and
the north of England.
Where
That's it.
Rugby union is a global sport. So that is what's drawing more people, and that's why Rugby Union Australia is where it is at the moment. Obviously, there's a bit of management issues, which I think they're doing wrong. But
let's hear it. Well, go into depth. I want to find out. That's how the people learn that. Like knowledge, we have to share knowledge to lift the rugby IQ.
Yeah.
I can say of the public, you need to share these intimate things.
Yeah.
So give us a bit of an insight there.
To be honest, Australian Rugby Union are not supporting the lower levels, the grassroots rugby, the high school rugby, even the Premier Grade rugby that we play. Obviously, I didn't have to pay fees to play, but I was not getting 1 ounce of assistance, and I was playing with Wallabies that were coming back from injury. We were playing. It's the grade under the Reds. So you're playing against fringe players from the Reds or the Reds players, and you were paying for everything from your boots, your kit, and a lot of the players in my team still had to pay fees. If you had a full-time job, you would pay fees to play rugby.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's unheard of.
And they're paying $2.1 million for ex-rugby league players.
That's the thing. I think it's becoming a problem in Australia. It's too easy in Australia now to go, all right, let's go get a big islander that's playing rugby league and try and convert, get him into rugby union. And that's a trend you're seeing that's happening a lot these days.
Yeah. Well, they're using these marquee players to draw them from different codes to AFL. You have Israel Folau, who's our Wallabies fullback. He started off rugby league. He got pulled across as a marquee player for AFL, Aussie rules, to try and draw more rugby league players to play Aussie rules. And now he got as a big draw card to come across to rugby union, and they see that as a way to grow the sport, which I think is
what happened
a bit silly.
William Mason? I played in a World 15 team with him.
Yeah.
Toulon, I remember, signed him. He was only there for a couple of months.
Yep.
And did he go back to rugby league?
He did. He played Northern England rugby league for a little while, but he's now back in Sydney, Australia.
Is he still playing?
No. I see him out a little bit, but
Oh, yeah, when you see him out.
I see him drinking beers, but he's definitely not playing football.
But we spoke about your Mitreten Cup. Now, for me and for the listeners out there, in South Africa, you basically, if you want to play Super Rugby, you have to be in one of the top 6 unions. Either the Cheetahs, the Lions, the Sharks, Western Province, or the Bulls.
Yeah.
Where we see so often in New Zealand, and a team like, let's say, for Wellington or Otago, they're actually in your B division of your Metro, your local competition, but then they become the franchise heads. And a guy from Bay of Plenty or Taranaki will end up playing Mitreten Cup and then playing Super Rugby. How's that transfer? Is it a seamless transfer over from the domestic, playing for a domestic team like Taranaki into, because it's obviously working for you guys, and it's something that we've never been able to get right here. They tried to do the Cats, which was a combination of a Lions and the Cheetahs, and never worked. Why do you think it's such a seamless transition for you guys?
Well, I mean, the Mitre 10 Cup, the way it's structured, it's done that way because there's just so many teams. So to have a competition that makes sense, we can't have all 14 teams playing each other, because in New Zealand that's just too much rugby. On top of the international stuff, on top of the Super Rugby, on top of the Sevens, it's a way that we can kind of get through a Mitre 10 Cup season without everyone having to play each other. So although there are 2 tiers in the competition, it is still seen as the top competition in New Zealand.
Yeah, well, you've got this crossover where team in the second division plays teams at the top anyway. Now, the reason I'm asking that is that we've got a view in South Africa that we've got too many professional rugby players. They reckon we should minimize it to 5 teams, make the pool smaller. Does all 14 teams, is it full-on professional? Is it all the guys professional, all those teams?
No, so at Mitre 10 Cup level, most guys will... A lot of the guys have jobs. I mean, there's the guys who are professional who go up and they play Super Rugby. The guys who are playing Super Rugby and Mitre 10 Cup, they're full professionals. But the guys who have just made the Mitre 10 Cup and, might be their first or their second year, they're working, all year round, and then during the season, they're full-time rugby for that, that 10 weeks or however long it is. They're not getting paid a hell of a lot. They might get maybe $1,000 for
in Australia, if you're older than 23 and you're not on some form of professional contract, rugby's costing you money.
Yeah.
It is 3 times a week training, and that's on the field training. Plus, you've got to fit gym in around that. Saturday, the whole of your Saturday, that is rugby. And then you've got to work in physio appointments. This is around a full-time job. And so I'm a lawyer. I'm doing 12, 13-hour days. So I'm either have got to get into work early to get out so I can go to training. It's just, if you're not in a flexible job like, say, a tradesman or some sort of personal trainer, rugby is just becomes too hard, to be honest. And you're not making any financial gains from playing it. It's actually costing you not only your time, but you're paying to play. So, and this is... I know boys that have played Premier Grade rugby and then there's some injuries and they get pulled up into the Reds, and next minute they go from a semi-professional position up playing for the Reds, playing in Wellington against these guys that do nothing but rugby, and that gap it's noticeable. Yeah.
But a lot of the times, and one of the guys who I had on the show as well, Anton van Zyl, it was similar for him. I mean, he finished his studies, studied at Oxford as well, played club rugby, got a chance at the Lions with us, and his growth was exponential. I mean, he just went from strength to strength. He played his first Currie Cup game in 2006, and by 2010, he was man of a match against the Springboks for Barbarians team.
Yeah.
So it's kind of... It just shows you, if you get the right person, like so, you need to dangle that carrot in front of the oaks.
Yeah.
But it's always good to hear like what you're telling now, because we quickly in South Africa to point fingers and complain, and it's not easy enough. It might be a bit of an entitlement issue in South Africa where guys think because you were the big boy when you were younger, you think you should just walk into a system.
Yeah.
And it doesn't happen in South Africa because we've got so many numbers. You get churned out very, very, very quickly. What is like, if I have to ask both of you, let's start with you, Bart. What is your perception of South African rugby? Obviously, you guys mostly see the Springboks. I don't know if you follow local rugby as much. You watch Super Rugby.
Yeah. We watch I watch the Currie Cup.
What would your perception be of South African rugby currently?
Well, I mean, as far as is it good quality rugby? Hell yeah, there's some good footy players coming out here. South Africa's obviously always been one of the the biggest rival for New Zealand alongside Australia.
But not anymore. That's just a fact.
Yeah. So I don't know what's happened, and I'm not qualified to comment on what's happened at all. It's just a shame to see that a nation such as South Africa has hit this, this sticking point. This.
From the outside looking in, I would say that South Africans don't play smart rugby.
Yeah.
They've got the size, they've got the power, they've got the speed. I would say where they drop the ball is the tactics. The All Blacks have different game plans against different teams. Eddie Jones, he's brought different tactics to different games for the English team, and they are dominating the European division.
Yeah.
But I would say that for the skills, the power and the speed that come out of South African rugby, I don't think they're playing the smartest football.
Is the the player quota thing a reality? Like, I often hear people, when we're back in New Zealand, we've got South Africans everywhere, and they've all got something to say about rugby. And they always say, the wrong guys are getting picked because there needs to be a certain level of coloured people in the team. Is that a real thing?
But that's not a problem. Like people, you get those critics that would say that's a problem. But I agree with you. That's not a problem with us.
Does that start at schoolboy level?
No, that starts at schoolboy level.
So say you're a schoolboys South African team. Does there need to be...
Yes, a certain percentage. Sure.
Okay.
That's full in place. Like you'll, for instance, have a scenario where, and SA schools teams normally they do very well, but they'll
that's because
they'll have maybe a bad year against England. They get walloped by England, but then England, the best school team, comes and play here and get walloped.
Yeah.
And you say we play dumb rugby, but if you look at our schoolboy rugby, we play...
Oh, I didn't use the word
No,
dumb.
but I hear what you're saying. Our tactics are maybe...
I would just say tactical. You could be smarter. I didn't...
Yeah.
Not dumb. I don't want to offend too many South Africans.
Well...
yeah, you're going to get
you're South African. But
I just said they just have to hone their tactics a little bit against different teams that they play. I don't want to say that South Africans play dumb rugby. I want to make it out of here alive today.
Oh, mate, you've had a great time here. So we'll get later to do that. We've got a school team here that played in the World Championship this year in Japan, Glenwood.
Yeah.
And they played against, I think, Wellington Boys, which is one of your better schools here. They beat them, won the final. Then that exact same team comes back to South Africa and get walloped by the biggest South African team. So our depth is so good. It's not even funny. Like if you look at our under-19s when they compete against New Zealand and stuff. So where do you think it's that the coaching, the system, where does it go wrong for South Africa? From like our players, the quality when they're younger, up to our senior guys.
Well, using what you said before, do you reckon that as you're just a number and you can get replaced? Is that what it is?
Yeah, we've had on one of the previous shows we spoke about it. To be successful in rugby, like in business as well, you would know, consistency and continuity is key.
Yeah.
We can't generate that in South Africa because if we're not successful, heads must roll. So, coaches churn the whole time. They churn players all the time. So it's difficult to build consistency. All our best teams, if you look at even the team that won the World Cup 2007, that's a team that were together for quite a while.
Yeah.
We just don't have that in South Africa currently. And it is a fact that because we've got so much talent, we burn through the guys.
And we talked about this yesterday in regards to why stay and develop your rugby in South Africa when you have got the money and from the European opportunities. So a South African player, he could stay here, he could develop his rugby and become one of the all-time greatest Springboks, but they get big money offers to the European League and they just go up there. They don't have to face the harsh criticism that comes with playing South African rugby because you guys aren't gentle on players after they've put in a performance. Not at all,
especially even coaches as well.
Exactly.
That's just a fact. Yourself, Bart, if you had to change anything in New Zealand rugby, like how would you make it better? Not that it's in a bad place, but what do you say? What can change there? Because we've heard what Jonesy said about Australian rugby, and they need help at the lower levels. Yeah. What do you think can get better in New Zealand?
I think communication between coaches and players. The amount of guys who go out there and play out of their skin, or they don't play out of their skin, or they just put their heart and soul into the game, and then you go in for your one-on-one meetings in the academy, or let's say, and you get really good feedback. You're doing really well, Barts, keep at it, this is going to be a good year for you, and then the next week you're dropped. So we're all big boys. We just want, clear feedback. We want to understand why we're not getting picked.
But do you not think that's also a numbers thing, where because New Zealand's a bit like South Africa?
Man, there's five 117 kilo wingers.
Yeah.
And that's what I would say, like, New Zealand rugby, you got 10 players, they're all 120 kilos, they're all 6'4" wingers.
Bring the next one.
If you're not producing for, I'll just bring in the next one.
Yeah, that's easy as that.
And there's
but how hard is it to just give a guy some feedback? You've still given that time. You still sat down in front of him. You've still got the dialogue going. Most coaches, even at club level, they don't tell you what's going on. They just say, "Oh, we're trying something," or they don't clearly communicate with you what they're thinking because they don't want to hurt your feelings, or they want to be your mate, or I don't know why. It seems like
Yeah,
consistent
we've
thing.
spoken about it before on this show. An important thing, and I've seen it in coaching as well. As soon as a coach is fully invested, let's say it's his only salary through coaching, then there's an emotional part in the brain that starts kicking in. Like if a player is probably not doing well, it's like it becomes an emotional barrier between himself and that player. Wherever a coach, if it's not his identity, Brendan Fenter likes to say it's not his identity, then he can sit in an objective seat and make, like Michael Shaker, he's a bit like that. He's made so much money, and he went to a Waratah, said I'm doing it my way.
Yeah.
Same as when he was at Leinster, Stade Francais before that, and now with Australia as well. He doesn't care if you fire him because he doesn't do it for the money.
I've seen it go. I've seen Zane Hilton, who's the Rebels assistant coach.
Yeah.
He started playing with me at hooker, and then he moved into coaching at the Premier Rugby level. So he went from a player who was friends with everyone into that coaching position, and then that was his main source of income. So a lot of his friends that he played alongside with, he had to go, you're not producing for me, and you could see a lot of friendships he got tested, and then he's obviously he went international to get that experience, and he's come back. But during that period, because that's where all rugby coaches come from, is the lower levels at Premier Grade Rugby in Australia. It's a hard thing.
But do you not think then, everybody always focuses on the players, do you not think the national bodies should have a thing in place where there's a big psychological factor when it comes to coaching, and you need to have a strong emotional, like your EQ. I don't think they put, would you agree with me? I don't think they put enough time into coaches. They're always worried about the technical part instead of, you're working with people, you're a human manager.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I mean, as you say, it's about that emotional intelligence. As a leader, your first role as a leader is to understand before being understood. And that's not a common theme in rugby sport, especially not in my experience. The leaders in the team bark at you, the coach barks at you. There's not this two-way thing. And as you say, they're people managers. We spend a lot of time on the tactics, but winning a game, and I think this is why the All Blacks win, is they have that next level psychological awareness. They understand how to get on the same page. They have, an emotional intelligence, which when they're on the field, the first decision you make about any situation is threat or no threat, threat or opportunity. When you get on the field, the All Blacks see opportunities everywhere. Everything's an opportunity, whereas some other players might not. Maybe they see threats, and maybe that's the same for coaches.
No, definitely. And that what also helps the All Blacks is consistency. They've had Wayne Smith since 2004.
Yeah, exactly.
Continuity. I mean, they even kept him after that loss in 2007 to France, and you can only build on that. Boys, tell me a bit about South Africa. You've been here a while. Are you guys enjoying it?
Fucking love it.
Yeah.
Can I swear?
Of course you can.
Fuck yeah, I love this place. I could honestly live here, eh?
It's always good to get a perspective from the outside.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you tell people, going to South Africa. First thing anyone says to you is, be careful, it's dangerous over there. And they haven't even left. They haven't even been to South Africa. They've heard one news report or one of their friends said the same thing to them. No, I love it here. The people are awesome. The sun's amazing. The scenery's amazing. They've got rugby. They've got everything I need to be happy.
Friendly people.
Friendly people. Very friendly people.
Yourself, Jonesy? How's your experience been?
I just have to agree with the sentiments of Bart. It's been a great couple of days. I've been here since Saturday, so we've got to experience all the beautiful things about South Africa.
We've got Cape Town 10s coming up.
Oh, yeah.
With shark diving yesterday.
We did.
You're going to the bushveld. You're going to see some animals. That's going to be phenomenal.
We went to, shark diving. We hiked Table Mountain. We've been diving with the great whites and out to the wineries.
Yeah.
So, you can't complain.
No, not at all. It's my third time here. First time I came in maybe 2005 on a school trip with my first 15.
Oh yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah. Oh no, it was really good, man. It was such a great experience. So I played for Westlake Boys, and we're sort of one of the sort of top 8 schools in the country, depending on how well you're playing that year. And we came over here and we did a bit of a tour. We played everywhere. Oh, we played like a few teams. I can't remember exactly who we played. I just remember losing to Pretoria Boys. but that was something special. Seeing the culture that school had, where everyone was on the sideline, they're all in their blazers, they're all singing the school songs, they really got behind their team, and that's something that we don't have in New Zealand. There's not a strong culture like that ownership, that pride, and so to sort of be a part of that.
What happens with South African rugby after school? Because the South African rugby team, they came over and played my school first 15. And they literally put 73 points on us. And we had won our Brisbane comp, so we're probably the best, one of the best school teams in Australia. And they came over and they were not only bigger, they were faster, and they put, as I said, put 73 points on us. What happens after school with South African rugby? Does everyone keep on playing? Is it provincial, or do they go overseas straight after?
No, well,
because by the time we got to under 20s, they had been they were still one of the top teams, but a lot of the other nations had caught up.
Yeah, no, definitely. The thing is, and there's, I'm going to go on the first point that you said, like we're passionate. If you look at our school rugby, the guys play with passion. They play for the jersey. Where that keeps on in New Zealand, like the higher you go, like what's that book's name, Legacy, where try and always, they say in the All Black team, leave the jersey in a better place than when you found it. That tapers a bit away in South African rugby. I must be honest with you. We lose a bit of that culture as you go higher. A typical way of making it in rugby is, and we've got a couple of avenues to do it. Yeah. You can either be, from a young age, you played SA under 16, SA under 19, so you're earmarked for higher things. So then you'll be signed by, let's say, the Blue Bulls or the Lions, and the money that's being thrown at these boys now is actually, it's ridiculous. Yeah. Our SA captain from last year, Saman Murat, he's been offered just under 800,000 rands, which is a lot of money for a guy that's walking out of school. So a guy like himself, he'll be
from who was he offered 800?
Well, about every union wanted him. The Blue Bulls. He ended up staying. It was quite important that he stayed in Western Province. Yeah. Because he's a local.
Still,
it was really important that he stayed here for Western Province rugby. Yeah. So I think they did everything in their power to keep him. So a guy like that will make it. It's a natural leader. Otherwise, you would have to go to university, and we're very fortunate. And I must say, and I'll give kudos on the show to FNB Steinhoff, our old World Cup winning captain, Franz Schopina. Yeah. He basically took a college football concept, brought it to South Africa. So we got a thing every Monday, Varsity Cup.
I've been watching that since I've been here.
And it's phenomenal rugby. Too. It's a great standard. A great standard. And another thing that it does is, it forces guys where a guy might have, in the past, he would have tried to become a rugby player, didn't get education. Now he's got an avenue to make it into professional rugby through Varsity Cup.
Through education.
And because you have to have 60 credits, it basically means you have to pass, you have to get your degree at some time. Yeah. Where that guy might not have done it previously before the Varsity Cup. He might have focused on trying to become a professional athlete. Now he's studying a bit harder, and he walks away from rugby with an education behind him. I mean, we speak about it all the time. I'm a big proponent of it. You have to get education. If you're going to get education first.
The National Rugby Comp in Australia is putting steps forward. Obviously, with television rights, that's helping out because the competition is expensive. But at least it's giving an avenue for people that want to get into their rugby but don't want to put the rest of their life, if they don't make it, on hold. Because, as I said, I've seen a lot of boys that have focused on getting into the rugby. And they've been on the fringe for the Reds, been on the fringe for the Waratahs. They don't make it, they get tossed out, and they're 23, 24.
100%.
They don't have a career. They don't have.
But not everybody's academics. You must understand. You can't force everybody. Yeah. But if there's an incentive, a carrot in front of you, to work an extra bit harder and study. Yeah. Now you've got that incentive. I mean, it makes a big difference in a lot of guys' lives. And it's completely independent. The Varsity Cup is not sponsored by South African Rugby at all. And I'll be honest with you, if you have to take that sponsorship away and take that competition away, you'll take out one of the few things that's keeping our rugby still at lower levels, up and running. And you can speak to many people that would agree with it. For me, like I said, our systems, I don't necessarily think our systems, our management systems, is always in place. There's a big discrepancy between South African rugby, the body, and then the unions running underneath it.
Yep.
There's not good communication. I mean, I can sit here for hours and talk about it. But
Do you think it's post under 20s that the South Africans lose their way, and then that's where the talent disperses?
yeah, as well, like you said, communication is critical. Like,
Because I would say it's at 21, 22 in Australia. If you are not in some form of professional rugby team at that stage,
yeah, that's why it's good. Varsity Cup up to the age of 25.
yeah,
You can play Varsity Cup. Now, what's
Yeah.
nice about that, if you, let's say, a tight five, props,
you don't get a good prop until you're 28, 29.
100%.
So that's why at that stage. That's
How
why a lot
does
of-
Australia, you always struggle to develop props.
Exactly.
You can't.
Well, like I said, if you are not in some form of rugby franchise, be it anywhere in Queensland, New South Wales, ACT, Melbourne, or Perth, if you're not in there by about that 21, 22, you are back on the tools, either studying for a degree or back as a tradesman. So,
Yeah, so we're quite lucky in that sense. We do have avenues to develop guys like that. And the problem is, I mean, and at our Curry Cup, and this is if you look at our management, and this is kind of for me a symptom of South African rugby. We have a Curry Cup. Now the Curry Cup, up to last year, was still only playing with 22 guys. Everywhere else, every competition in the world internationally, you play with 23 guys.
yeah.
Now they come only Curry Cup to save cost. You play with 22. That means you can only put one prop on the bench.
Yeah.
So if you're not going to, in your local game, develop your players, give them chance, where are you going to develop props from? And that mentality sums up South African rugby for me. If you understand where I'm going with it. So that's what I would personally say the big problem is. It's not our numbers. We've got a lot of, I mean, look all over the world South Africans are playing.
Yeah. No, it's
Every single country in Europe almost got a South African playing for them.
Yeah, yeah.
Anything else that we can throw in there?
Cape Town, I love you.
Yeah, no, thanks very much for having us.
Sam Barton, thank you so much. I think the women's going to thank me a lot for bringing you to Cape Town.
Well, thank you or hate you, I'm not sure. We'll have to find out this.
Trent
Bit
Jones,
of both.
Dan Balzerian of Sydney. Follow him on Instagram, gentlemen. Right, thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate your time.
No worries, Etis. Thank you very much for
Great.
having us. It's been a
Cheers,
pleasure.
boys. Thanks.